Hey, welcome to today's video and thanks for joining me. Today we're going to be looking at this subject, RRIF versus an RRSP meltdown. Well, many of you have asked the question, is there really a difference if I just simply let my RRSP convert to a RRIF and then let that RRIF minimum withdrawal occur through my lifetime? Am I better off just doing that versus actually doing an RRSP meltdown? Well, today we're going to find out. I'm going to introduce you to a couple here. This is the Windsor plan, Elizabeth and Philip Windsor plan. This is obviously an invented scenario, but it does demonstrate, I think what you'll see is something very similar to what you might be experiencing or what you expect to experience in retirement. So let me introduce you to a little bit about who this couple is. So on the left-hand side, you see that they are 59 years of age today. They plan to retire at age 62. And I'll just make this a little bit bigger so we can all see it. So there's 59 and there's 62. And they want to spend about $80,000 in retirement. And this is a phased income approach. So they're going to have $80,000 now and then $60,000 later on in retirement when they're much older. So about $5,000 a month. Pretty reasonable for people in their 80s. You don't eat as much. You sleep a whole lot more. You're not traveling as much, so $5,000 a month should be plenty of money. This is $80,000 plus travel money, so $15,000 indexed for inflation, so it goes up over time. So they plan on spending roughly $95,000 a year on just everything they want to do in their lifestyle, plus traveling and enjoying their retirement. They're going to retire after 3 years. Their combined income is $180,000, so fairly nominal type of employment, right? $90,000 each. Want to spend $80,000 early on and then later on a nominal amount. You might see yourself in that example. We're not talking about crazy wild numbers. A lot of people say if I had $2 million when I retire, I'd have no problems too. So this you might find very realistic to your own situation. So when we look at that and we say, okay, when you want to retire at 62, this is an example of RRIF only up here, as you can see. So let's go across. You can see that they're beginning with $450,000 in their RRSP each when they retire. So about $1 million, close to $1 million collectively between the two of them. And they have each $100,000 in their TFSA. So I think those are really reasonable numbers. So if you look at this together, we're going to go down to Philip here. We're going to show you, here's the RRIF. The RRIF, I have it beginning right away when they retire at 62. We have them doing the RRIF, taking some of the money out of their TFSA. You can see here he has pretty much a very low tax rate, and then it begins to jump up, and the reason for that is because there's no more TFSA money to take out. It's all going to be from that RRIF minimum withdrawal coming out. So if we back out of here a little bit, you'll see as we go through life, right? We'll move over a little bit. Let's slide these over. I've pushed CPP and old age security off to age 70, so it gives us a little bit more space to use that RRIF minimum, and also trying to save some taxes along the way. You can see there's the RRIF minimum for Philip all the way through. It's going higher and higher each year, and we get down to age, I believe we're going to age 90. He's got $361,000 left over, and we go with Elizabeth. Elizabeth has the same amount of money, so her experience is going to should be the same. And she's got $320,000. There you go. So the combined amount of money left over at the end of their lifetime using a RRIF minimum is $682,000 that they never got to spend. That's what they both died at age 90, and they still had $682,000 in their RRIF. So those of you who are worried about retiring and leaving money behind, very much so in a RRIF situation, it's likely that you won't get through all that money in your lifetime, especially if you have $400,000, $500,000, $800,000 in a RRIF. It's unlikely that you're going to actually get through all that money. So what do you normally think about? You say, well, what if we're to do an RRSP meltdown? So before I get into that, let's look at the tax situation. Using a RRIF minimum withdrawal strategy in their lifetime, they're going to spend $604,000, call it $605,000, from today all the way up to age 90. That's what they're going to pay Canada Revenue over their lifetime to use their RRIF money in their CPP, right? So now let's go into an RRSP meltdown. Same couple, same situation, same spend, $80,000 a year, plus the money to travel, going to retire at age 62. And we slide over here and we say, okay, Philip, you started out with how much money? You started out with about $500,000 in your RRSP, and then you're going to RRIF. So here is what we're doing. The way I started this off is I looked down here and I said, okay, what is the tax rate that they're paying throughout their lifetime? We see 9, 10, 12, 13%, 14%. We don't see things going up and down too dramatically. But we do have a goal that we want to melt this down before they pass away. So they don't want to have any money left in their RRSP or on their RRIF when they pass away. So let's look at that. So part of doing an RRSP meltdown, and also a RRIF meltdown in this case, is that you have to have a conversation with your advisor and say, how much more tax are you willing to pay in order to get rid of that RRSP and that RRIF before you pass away? So that's the crux of the conversation is you're going to have to pay a little bit more tax to do this. So we're doing $50,000 because he actually had a 0 tax rate in this year and then that year. So we're pulling the $50,000 out. That'll put him in the lowest tax bracket. You can see we're going all the way through doing an RSP. Here is age 72. This is where the RRIF minimum comes in. We're going to pull it a little bit more than the RRIF minimum. I'll just make this bigger so you can see it. So we're starting right away at age 62, and we're going to pull that money out of the RSP, pay the tax on it. But is he spending the money? No, they're not spending all the money. You can see there's the TFSA, and we're actually making deposits to the TFSA. So some of you felt like, oh, if I do an RSP meltdown and do RSP withdrawals, that's me spending money. Maybe you are spending the money. But if you're not, according to this plan, they only want to spend $80,000 plus the travel money, and then later on in their 80s, $60,000, no travel money, maybe local travel money, how's that? Then anything in excess of their need gets put into a TFSA account or into their non-registered account. In this case, it's all being deposited to the TFSA. So we see here all the way through, get to about age, what is that? That's age 86, finished with the last withdrawal, no more money in a RRIF. All the money's been deposited at TFSA, so that Philip passes away with $850,000 in a TFSA. Let's look at Elizabeth's situation. Same situation. We're drawing money out of her. I'll make this a little bit bigger for you. We're drawing money out of her RSP. We're being mindful of how much tax we're going to pay along the way. And we finally get all that money out of her RRIF by age 80, which is awesome. And that money is just simply paying a little bit of tax and then putting that money into her TFSA. You can see here, Elizabeth's got close to $1 million in her TFSA. So really good example of an RSP and a RRIF meltdown. And how much tax are they paying over their lifetime? Well, let's look at that. It's $614,000. So they paid, it was $605, we'll call this $615. So $10,000 extra from today all the way out from 62 to 90. Not crippling in terms of tax. So that's a decision that I could say, yeah, that I can deal with $10,000 over the 30-year period. Now, here's the real benefit of doing the RSP meltdown. If you look at the actual money, it's about how much money is left in your RRIF when you pass away. So what is the real issue with leaving money behind in a RRIF or an RSP when you pass away? It's the tax. All that money gets added to your income for the year and you're taxed on that. So if we look at the estate value here, we can see that in an RSP meltdown, they have no RSPs left, no RRIF left, and the estate value is $5,129,000, and they're leaving behind of that, $1.8 million is cash in the TFSA. Versus the RRIF only, there's $1.777 million in the financial assets, but they have a lower estate value because they're paying $277,000 in taxes. That's that RRIF that you're going to have to pay taxes on. So the result is, by doing the RSP meltdown, you are able to have less money available for CRA to be taxed at your passing, and you'll pass on more assets to your beneficiaries. It doesn't mean you're not having enough money, if you're thinking of doing those withdrawals in your RSP, it doesn't mean that you're running out of money. It just means that you're doing a better job with your withdrawal strategy so that you still have all the money you want in retirement and you leave more money behind after tax to your beneficiaries. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Remember to put all your comments below. I love reading your comments. I love seeing you stick around and seeing the end of this video. What's your strategy for your withdrawal? Do you want to leave money behind in your RRIF? Are you thinking about a better way to do a withdrawal strategy? If you are, contact me. You'll see the description below. There's all my contact information. Send me an email or call me, and I'm happy to talk to you about your withdrawal strategy. Thanks again for sticking around, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks, and be well.